What up, everybody? This is your boy Black Magus, and welcome back to Blak Vibes. So this is gonna be done kind of in a special way because I've missed a week. I'm gonna make it up by doing a couple of these episodes, and these episodes are gonna be more focused on a specific uh, topic or genre, so that you guys can get a few episodes in, and I can catch up, and we can kind of like get back to the flow of things. So today we're going to talk about, or in this episode, I should say, we're going to talk about the gaming industry and the craziness that's going on in the gaming industry. Now, everybody knows about all the previous closings, people being let go, studios being closed, projects being disbanded. It was really what, like, the end of 2023 was really wild with that shit, which is crazy because you wouldn't think that a lot of people want to see that happen. You don't want to see it happen, period. But during the holiday season, it tends to sting just that much more for people. And, you know, people are in a fucked up way. And, you know, it was bad to see. It was very, very, very bad to see. But it hadn't stopped. It slowed down, if anything, as we recently had Microsoft close down a couple of studios. And I believe there was a couple of other, and I can't remember the names, forgive me, but a couple other places that had let go people, if not closed down studios. But Microsoft was the biggest one, partially because these studios were known for games like Prey and the highly, you know, lauded Hi-Fi Rush. And of course, now everybody's going in on Phil Spencer and wondering when his days are numbered. Me personally, I'm still a Phil Spencer fan, partially because I've said this for such a long time, and I've been saying this over and over again. The man got dealt a bad debt to begin with. He got put in charge of a department that the overall um, powers that be for Microsoft, like the CEO, he never thought that they should have kept it anyway. And this is why I wish I kept some of my old content on my channel instead of deleting it, like someone suggested, because it would have been a perfect receipt where I was talking about this kind of around when the Xbox One, the original Xbox One, dropped, and how I felt like their marketing strategy was pointing towards a future where they're probably not going to have a console, have like the hardware itself, that they were going to go to a more entertainment software type company. They'll have the games, but the games you'll be able to play other places. Um, and with them trying to dabble into like TV shows and all that, they're just trying to become a media brand more than anything, not just a gaming brand. Of course, the Xbox One thing kind of blew up in their faces and set them back. They disbanded their TV production studio. They disbanded a bunch of studios that they had lauded for the reveal of the Xbox One that was supposed to be making games. All of them got shut down. Not all, but a significant amount. And since then, it's just been the same kind of process where while they've made the Xbox, One X and the One S, and then they have the Xbox Series, and they've committed to making another Xbox. Everything that you look at, their strategy tends to lean towards them kind of, you know, cutting the fat, so to speak, by unfortunately sacrificing a bunch of studios. Even though they just made all these major purchases, they're still like dwindling down things to, I think, a size that they're comfortable with. And with the effort put behind Xbox Game Pass, as opposed to the console itself, it's just more and more. It just seems like they're gearing up to become just a platform or a brand without hardware. You know, which again makes sense because again the CEO he even came out recently. I saw it was talking about like how part of the reason that they don't really want to do the Surface and stuff like that anymore is because licensing is a much more appealing thing. He can license the Windows software or the tablet version of it software to other people and make money off of that. It's the same kind of concept that's being used with Game Pass, and it's why I think that that console its days are numbered. Took longer than I had predicted, as I thought the Xbox One was going to be it. But I do think like the marketing disaster behind the Xbox One is the reason why you continue to get an Xbox console right now, as they're trying to make sure that the brand is solid before they go that route. And Game Pass seems to be doing it. I mean, it's not growing as fast as they want, but nothing's growing as fast as people want because guys, still in the post-pandemic, you know, period. It hasn't been a full 2 years since everything started to open up. Not completely open up, but started to open up. We forget like a good portion of 2022, things were still, you know, in limbo, and people are still trying to figure out: do we need to open these businesses back up? Do we need to have like people stay at home? Do we need to do this? Like, things weren't completely like just normal. Um, it took a good bit of last year, in my opinion, to see things start to really get back to normal. As much as we like, and the last consoles came out during the pandemic, which was not an easy thing because they weren't able to produce the numbers they wanted to, as far as product to sell. People couldn't afford it because people were worried about fucking rent and food and things like that because it's not like they were getting checks. A lot of people weren't getting checks on the regular, or not, or their checks didn't go as far as inflation started to like shoot up because people were taking advantage of the situation and claiming like, "Oh, our business is being like totally like affected," which in some cases they were, but not to the point where the pricing had to go up the way it did. So now, like, fuck, a month's grocery is the cost of a fucking console for a lot of like people. Like if you have a family, yeah, you're probably spending the $500 that you spend on that Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, you know? So in production for games slowed down because of that. People purchasing games slowed down because of that. So you're in this period now where you're having the industry recover and they're making the same moves and mistakes that you see a lot of industries make, which is when in doubt, get rid of all the people at the bottom, raise prices if possible, and hope that you can get the people with the money to invest. But a lot of people didn't invest. It's like, so now you're in this period where you're seeing all these people getting laid off. You're seeing companies like have negative like outlooks on their business. Now, Square Enix being the exception, because Square Enix always seem to have been looking at their business negatively instead of looking at their business practices negatively and actually addressing them. The whole like this game didn't sell enough. Well, what did you do to make it sell? And what is enough? Because they've had successful games like Final Fantasy Rebirth and Remake, the Tomb Raider games before they let that go. Things that people actually purchased and played, but they set their goals so high and the standards so high because of all the other mistakes they've made with other properties, thinking that these big names were going to make up for the shortcomings that their fuck ups did. And now they're talking about restructuring and redoing their strategy. And it's like, it's not going to work because you're not going to actually evolve and look at things in an honest manner. And it's just like, Sony with the stupid thing with making people have to get a PSN network to play because I guess they want to enhance their PSN numbers and visibility. I don't even understand that, why they wanted people to have a PSN account on PC played Helldivers 2. And that backfired on them because they didn't think about the fact that a lot of people who play that game on PC play it on PC because they live in a country where you can't get a PSN account. PSN is not supported. So they shot themselves in the foot. And like now they're complaining about, while they've had record sales for the PS5, it wasn't what they expected it to be. It was off by like, I would say, what was it, 80,000 or 800,000? I forget the number, but it wasn't that far off from what they expected. I think they were expecting 21 million. They sold like they sold like 20 point something. It was something like really, like it. The numbers weren't that far off. It was a successful year. It's still the most, like, the highest selling console between the Xbox and itself. Um, it's doing decent in comparison to the Switch, but now they're concerned and they're worried about the market. They're talking about making this PS5 Pro, which, yeah, that worked pre-pandemic in a different economic situation, and where you really could see some super significant performance differences. I think, depending on what games you played, of course, and that's always the thing. It's depending on what you're playing and how you like to play it. I've heard that this is going to be one, but is it going to be as successful as the PS4 Pro? Probably not, because report came out. They said, I think 40%, if not half, of the PS4 and PS4 Pro owners did not upgrade. Why? Because again, we just went through economic turmoil. People are still readjusting and getting their lives back to normal. Like, everything's not going to snap back to where it was, to where, for even people who spending $500 was nothing, is now something that they have to think about or want to think about, because of, in light of what happened with the pandemic and just a lot of other factors, like people are moving to PC. Um, you know, games. There, while there are some great games that are exclusive to the PS5, there's still enough in the library for PS4. There's still some things that's still coming out for PS4 that people were like more than willing to stick to, especially if you're that person who only play video games, to do the Call of Duty, NBA 2K, Madden type shit, maybe Fortnite and all that. Those platforms run those games perfectly fine, and there's no reason to get a PS5 for any of those things, you know, unless you want the extra bells and whistles. And again, it lends to people being a lot more conscious with their money now because of the pandemic. So it's crazy, and it's not going to stop. I feel bad for people again, like Phil Spencer, who's going to be scapegoated for this. Like, person who should be scapegoated is always should be Jim Ryan. I feel like Jim Ryan has something to do with that email shit in the PlayStation Network shit. By the way, that was his final, grenade toss to trying to blow that company up before he left. But you know, you got Sarah Bond out here. She made the comment that she made. God bless her. she's another person who doesn't deserve the flack that she got because she was trying to make an answer and didn't realize what she was saying before she said it. The whole like we want smaller successful games, and then didn't think about the fact that you just closed the studio that made the smaller successful game. Um, but they're throwing her out of the island because she's a face, just like Phil Smith is a face, and they're not the ones necessarily pulling the strings and making those decisions. Sure, I'm sure they've made their mistakes, but ultimately, in a company like Microsoft, the overarching um, decisions are made by probably their general CEOs and not that particular department. It's not like Sony. Sony pretty much just put PlayStation on an island because PlayStation is the only brand of theirs that seems to sustain success, um, and or at least significant enough success to where it has yet to be broken, even though they've made some mistakes over the years. Unlike the movies or the music and things like that. So it's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy, and who knows what's going to happen when if the dust settles. I shouldn't say when, but if the dust settles, because everybody's still feeling things out and trying to carve out how this industry is going to be. And it's like the more progressive people who are saying this is an opportunity to look at your past mistakes and correct them and to try something different versus the people who are either let's just cut it all off completely and or lean into whatever's the current like popular thing or who just want to stick to the traditions and try to force the business back to the way it was somehow. It's like it's a bad fight, and the more progressive, open-minded people are losing because they're generally the ones who are getting laid off and sent to suffer, while these CEOs and things that make these weird, fucked up decisions, as with just about every industry, sit there, count their money, and keep their job for their incompetence and their arrogance and their stubbornness. And this is a goddamn shame because gamers suffer, and the people who matter the most, the developers, suffer too. So it's wild. It's wild. Hey, it's a part of this country's identity, I guess, just to be fucked up in its business practices. Um, Speaking of this country and people being fucked up, so people are complaining about the new Assassin's Creed. New Assassin's Creed was announced. Um, Yay! As someone who played most of the Assassin's Creed games, I cut it myself off at Odyssey, so I made it pretty long within the series. We have the new Assassin's Creed Shadows coming out, and people are losing their freaking minds because the protagonists are a female shinobi. Ninja is what we normally call them, but shinobi is a term that they was used before ninja became the real popular term to identify everybody in that like realm. But and then you have Yusuke. Yusuke. Sorry if I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly. Who is a historical figure. He was the first black samurai, said to be the first foreign samurai, um, said to have been either an African slave or just a man from Africa. I don't think they ever got clarification. And if you know the um, history, like by the back of your hand, please let me know. Correct me. I have no problem with that. But he was a black man in Japan who was a samurai, and now you get to play as this historical figure. I believe this is the first time you actually get to play as a real life person in Assassin's Creed, as opposed to being this assassin surrounded by a lot of real life historical figures. But everybody's up in arms because it's quote unquote not a traditional Japanese, or however they want to frame it, Assassin's Creed. You know, you're in Japan, which everybody's been begging and dying for you to get in Japan. But I guess because it's not a Japanese male protagonist, everybody's mad because I've seen people say like you don't even have a Japanese person starring in the Japanese game, and it's like y'all forget about the like, female protagonist that you're playing at. She's Japanese. She's Japanese, and she's a descendant of another famous character. Um, so it's just wow. It's like fucking wow. Like anything to find a reason to be upset at any hint of progressiveness, of any you know hint of giving a positive figure for people of color, or for women, or for transgender people, or for you know people, homosexual people. Like you're you get mad when you have to play these like fucking characters, or you see these representations made somehow in these games, and it's just like what the fuck. Like, why are you so fucking mad about that shit? It's be mad if the game sucks, which it possibly could because Ubisoft has not been doing that great um, with a lot of their games. So it could suck. That's what I'm worried about. Like this thing is gonna fucking suck because I would like to play another Assassin's Creed game. I would like to play another good Assassin's Creed game. I feel like I can't say Odyssey was bad, but there was a lot of stuff with Odyssey where the length and shit just fucking drove me crazy. But like Origins, if I could get another fucking Origins out of this, hell, fucking yeah, I love that game. You know, if you can get another Assassin's Creed 2 out of it, fuck yeah, give me that shit. Oh, I gotta play as a Japanese woman or a black man. Okay, whatever. And again, people be playing as white characters and have loved these white characters all these times. So what's the problem with playing as a non-white character for change, or playing something not what you expect? Like again, you're getting a Japanese woman, so they're not ignoring Japanese people like a lot of you are trying to argue. And you're getting a historical figure which you've never had before, which a lot of people have found like a fascinating and cool story. Like this guy, like the mystery surrounding his life and stuff like that has helped build that legend to it, which makes it like cool. I mean, shit, didn't we like the last Samurai movie? Think of it like that. That's all. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool, people. It's not that bad. Not as bad as you want to make it out to be, but I mean, that's what we do now. We're like way too extra upset at the idea of inclusion and diversity. Um, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, and especially since, as with everything in life, if you don't want to fuck with it, don't fuck with it. It's not changing your life. You're not gonna be fucking like lost and bewildered if you don't play an Assassin's Creed game. I promise you, as someone who's a big fan of Assassin's Creed games and got sick of the bullshit, I don't feel bad I didn't play Valhalla. I don't feel bad that I didn't play Mirages because there's other shit to do. There really is other shit to do, other shit to play. You know, like with most things in life, if it don't necessarily pertain to you and it's not affecting you in a negative way, you know, in a like serious negative way, people like actually this is causing your life tremendous trouble. It impacts it in a significant way, not in just in your head. Then it's fine. Let it be, and don't fuck with it. Like it's people are so fucking juvenile. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Like fucking got you. Why people want to go out and like just make everything as miserable as they are? I have no idea, but it's what it is. It's what they do. It's just what they do. By the way, summer's coming up, and of course we have no E3 because E3 is bowed out, um, pretty much completely. Um, I don't know if there's ever going to be a time where somebody tries to resurrect that, but no E3, and you're going to have the Summer Games thing by Jeff Keighley, but no major arena again where all the major companies come together. Which, again, for me has always been fine, but it is definitely going to be a lot more noticeable as none of the major companies seem to be having some super major release, or they're not advertising the releases the way they should. I'm looking at you, um, Hellblade. Uh, that game I think is about to be out, and I don't think Microsoft has done much, if any, advertising about it. Like, hopefully that game's okay. Like, are they ashamed of it? It's just so weird. They've bought all these studios, and the lack of push around a lot of these games, coupled with the fact that some of them haven't hit the way that they wanted to, it's disheartening to see. Um, but they'll get it straight. And again, I think they're going where they're going to be just like software and things like that, they will. It just sucks to see how it's going down right now. But yeah, there's really not a huge anticipating in game. And then again, Sony, y'all complaining about sales. You're not putting out a major game to like push people to your console. You know, not until next year. So yeah, people aren't just going to buy the console just to buy the console. Um, yes, there are some games that you can go back like God of War Ragnarok, Final Fantasy Rebirth, things like that, and pick it up if you haven't played them because you don't have a PS5. But it's not a rush. It don't feel like a rush. It doesn't feel like you got to get in now because this is the place to be. This is the way that having regular releases, um, not just first party but third party too. There's not a lot of huge regular third party releases. Like we're basically in hardcore gamer mode. Hardcore gamers, sure, you're gonna invest and you're gonna do that, but we all know that the majority of the sales come from the casual crowds that are drawn to a specific product because of what's out there and what's being put out there, what's being talked about. You know, and there's not a lot of buzz in gaming right now. So yeah, hey, it is what it is. But it will be interesting to see if the Summer Games Fest will bring that buzz. Hopefully it will, but gaming is going to still remain. Again, things are in an adjustment period, and 2025 looks to be a year for a lot of industries. Like a lot of places are looking at it. It's like this is the year like we're finally going to be back fully on track, and maybe that's what Sony is banking on when it comes to that PS5 Pro that's rumored to be coming out. Is that they'll get to the point where they're going to launch it. They'll be able to announce a ton of shit that's going to come out next year for it, and hype you up for it to the point where you feel like you need to get it. Um, I think if anything, their strategy should be to cater to the people who have not upgraded, like me. I said I'm a PS4 Pro because pandemic fucked me up, and I'm in no rush to get a PS5, even though I want to play Spider-Man 2 and God of War Ragnarok and Final Fantasy Rebirth. But it's just not feasible for me to make that investment right now. That being said, if a a PS5 Pro came out, okay, you put that out, put out information about what's up and coming for it. Just like with the next Xbox thing, you put that out, you put what's up and coming for it, and put out stuff that's gonna excite people to want to like get this thing and let them know like how well it works on that. Cool, you'll get it. Like for me, I would get it just because I eventually want to get a PS5. I eventually want to upgrade. Um, but I've waited so long at this point that it would make more sense for me to get a PS5 Pro if there is such a thing than a PS5. Um, Especially since the PS5 Pro is probably going to cost around the same as the PS5 did when it came out. And if I'm going to spend that money, spend it on a new hotness. Yeah. But yeah, we gotta get some like stuff going in. It's fine to have this low year. Like maybe this year is being used to really put in some effort to coming up with some great stuff that they can release later. Uh, Hopefully, that's what's being done. But if the next year is not going to have much to talk about, then why are you expecting people to go out and buy these things in record numbers? Because for consoles, you need the product, and if you don't have the product, you know, you're lost. You know, it's kind of interesting. These companies and like this strategies and things like that, like Sony banking on PS5 Pro to reinvigorate things. Microsoft banking on the allure of Game Pass to sustain them over the idea of like making quality consoles and um, having quality exclusive libraries for them. That it's funny. The fight to stay to the tradition seems to be everywhere else in the gaming industry except for the model of, hey, you have a console, you have your exclusives. This is what you're selling it off of. They're pretty much all kind of abandoning that, with the exception of Nintendo. But every other like thing, like the non-successful ways of doing things, I should say, they're holding to those old school things. Meanwhile, Nintendo's just steady going along, making money, staying relative while people try to like talk shit about them. They're gonna drop this next Switch that's just gonna sell out the window, and it's gonna sell off the strength of their brand name, their quality, and their exclusives. Having exclusives that draw people to it. Yeah, interesting times in gaming. But yeah, just wanted to talk about some of that stuff and catch up on that. I will be doing some other videos as time goes on about gaming and be keeping a more watchful eye on it for you guys, because I know a lot of you guys like to hear me talk about gaming. Anyway, as always, you guys feel free to hit me up. Let me know what you think, and I'll hit you later. This your boy Blak Vibes, and I'm out. Deuces.